In this video, we're going to focus on how to create a horizontal arbitrary line in chart.js. And a horizontal arbitrary line is very similar to a vertical one. So first of all, let me show you exactly what is a arbitrary line, so because you might get confused. So if you can see here, this is a sample, but this is a vertical arbitrary line. So as you can see, it goes from top to bottom. But what we really want to do is imagine we want to have from left to right. We want to pinpoint. We want to pinpoint specifically the y value here, so getting exactly the one here, and make a line matching this. So how can we do this on a in chart.js on horizontal level? Alright, to do this, what we first need to do is to create a chart. We're going to create a basic chart in chart.js. So first of all, in here, we go to chartjs.org, which is the latest version, 3.4.1. And in here, we're going to grab all of this code here. So click here on copy. So you get the basic bar chart here, which will eventually convert into a line chart. So paste this in there. Once we did that, the next thing what we're going to do is here, I'm getting started. I'm going to grab this chart.js library, put it in here. And next, I'll delete this here. So delete the white space. And then finally, I want to grab this one here. And afterwards, I'm going to give this a proper class. Because you can see here, we have height and width, but I don't want this. I want to create my own height and width in CSS. So in here, class. And then we say here, chart box. And then in here, the chart box is the following. We say here, dot chart box. And then we say here, width. And this width will be 700 pixels. That's more than sufficient. Then I'm going to give this here a proper indentation. Tap, tap. Alright. Save this. And once we save this, refresh here, we got our bar chart. Alright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert it. I'm going to make it a line chart. And then I want to do some final adjustments on the colors, etc., etc. So we can say here, line chart. Then I'm going to remove all of these colors here. Let's get a nice color. I don't know what the color is this. I'll just grab this color for now. A little bit a different color than the default color that we tend to use consistently, so we have something new to look forward to. Alright, we have this color here. Here, we have this color. Alright, so we have this here. The next thing what I want to do, I want to remove the border width. Then I'll say here, this will be a tension to create a line, and this line will be with a higher elasticity. Save this with 0.4 so it'll become more elastic. As you can see here, we get this nice purple color, beautiful. And then in here, we have a nice curvy one, because if you would remove the tension, it will be a straight line here. You can see here, there you are, which is not that nice. This is far more practical. Alright, we've got this now. The next thing what we want to do now is start working on creating the structure of it. So the chart.js documentation is moving away from this standard structure, which still uses var here, which is basically not anymore common. So what we're going to do is here, we're going to break it into the blocks that it's now more familiar with. And you see this in a lot of these samples here. So we're going to call this a setup block. And then we have here a config block. And then finally we have here our render / init block. And basically in here, what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of this, put it in there step by step. So we say here, constant data equals, and here not parentheses, but curly braces with semicolon. And in here, I'm just going to grab all of this, cut it out, paste this in here. Alright, we're done with the first one. The next one will be the config, and the config consists of the 3 core foundation blocks of chart.js, which is basically the skeleton, the line or the type, data, and the options. Cut this out. We go in here, we say constant config equals, and curly braces with the parentheses, enter, enter. Alright, paste, there we are. So once we have this, what I want to do is I want to delete all of this here and just put in a comma for the data because we already have it in here. Alright, the next thing what I want to do, enter here, and then we have the render. So here we say constant my chart, and this my chart, we're going to say here new chart, which is a constructor with a parentheses, pay attention, parentheses, not curly braces, semicolon, enter, enter. Alright, so in here we're going to put in the following. We will say here the following. We say your document.getElement by ID, and in here we'll say my chart. And the reason I'm using my chart here because the ID name is also my chart. Using it consistent is easy to remember. This here can be ignored, no need for it. And the reason why is chartjs is intelligent enough to understand. It already has that incorporated in the constructor, so it doesn't need to know this anymore. It already figured it out. So that's very nicely done. Keeps the code more dry. All right. Once we have that, we get the data or the constant of, or the variable constant, which is config. Comma here to indicate that there's something else. All right. Once we've got this, delete all of this, save this, and refresh. Nothing has changed, but our code structure has been changed. So this is good. So we're now here ready. So the next thing what we're going to do here is now basically we're going to create two things. We're going to create a plugin. And in the plugin, we have to create the line, and the line is basically now not a vertical line, but it will be a horizontal line from left to right, meaning that we need to pinpoint it on the Y data. And I'm going to show you how this works, because basically here, these are all data points where you can get the coordinates. So for example, if you want the May, and you have to go from January to May, and imagine that this would be 100 pixels per block, and going up would be 20 pixels. So we'd say here X would go all down here. That will be 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. It's 400 pixels, and going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 would be, if this would be 20 pixels, it's 100 pixels and 100 and maybe 110, 111, 12 pixels, etc., etc. That will be the value here. Same with all of these here. So that, of course, we have to figure out. Right now we do an estimate, but we have to figure that out, and we can figure that out programmatically with chart.js. All right. To do this, we're going to do two things. First, we're going to create our plugin. I'm going to make a plugin block, and this plugin block will be called the horizontal arbitrary. What is that? The arbitrary line. So I'm going to give it like this, same name here, same alphabetic capitalized letter on the A and the L. Pay attention on this. This must be consistent. Here, at the options, I'm going to put a comma, and then I'll say here, plugins. And in this plugin, we're going to copy and paste this. All right, we got it in here. And then here we have the plugin block. This is basically our block for the plugin, which is called the arbitrary, the horizontal arbitrary line. So in here, and you might call it also an annotation line. If you are familiar with the annotation chart.js plugin, which creates a line plus text, it's possible as well. This one is basically specifically designed basically to help you out to learn more in plugins, which is, I think, a very good exercise. So, and then you have to understand how it works also in Canvas. All right, well, what are we going to do now is the first thing. I'm going to say here constant, and this constant will be the horizontal arbitrary line with everything consistent. Basically, I just copy this, paste in here, also paste in here, so it's very consistent. Pay attention on that. Consistency is key here. Equal, and then here we have the curly braces, enter. And in here we say the following: the ID, and the ID equals what exactly? The arbitrary or the horizontal arbitrary line. Exactly the same, nothing fancy. Why? This is the ID name with here. So everything is now very straightforward, consistent. Make sure you do this. Then we say comma, and in and this function is going to define the drawing of this here. Because, for example, if we want to have a line here, we need to figure out what is the Y level here, but also where it starts. Because if you look and open up developer tab, you can see our canvas starts at very corner here, but not the chart area. So we need to figure out first what is the chart area here, which all can be done with the following codes here. So pay attention. So we say here before draw. What we want to do is the following. We want to grab the following, because this is a function. And we say here chart values, then all the arguments within the chart, and then of course the options. And I'll show you later on why with the options. Because this is for later on important. This is right now important. So one of the arguments, and then we say here constant. And here, so the arguments in the chart is basically the CTX, comma, chart area, and this is your magic key here right now. The chart area defines not the space of the canvas, but the space where the line starts. It's the chart area. All right, so here we can start to pinpoint and the starting point of the arbitrary line, the horizontal arbitrary line. So we're going to do this here. We say here left. We want the left value. We want the, well, we can do here, let's say clockwise, sorry. Clockwise, top. And then we have right, bottom. And what do we have here more? It's the left one, sorry. And what we need more, besides the top, bottom, right, and left, we want to have the height and the width. The width will be left to right, and the height is top to bottom. So that's also important. So we say here height, or well, I can do here width first, comma, height. Once we have this, we're not done yet. What we also want is basically the next item, which is the scale. So I say comma, and I can say here scales. And in the scales, we have the x, comma, y. Very, very important. And this equals chart. All right. Semicolon here. Save this. So we did here. Nothing happens yet so far. But basically what we have here, if we refresh here, there's nothing changes here as well because we didn't do anything. But what we wanted to do is getting these data points here. So the top would be when is the line starting to, where is the line officially started? It's basically here in this top pixel value. Here, this is the bottom pixel value, and here we have the left, and here we have the right pixel value. And then, of course, we have the scales, the x and y, which will get the data points here. So basically, these are the coordinates. So the coordinates, I guess, the right term. So this is the x, y coordinates. If we want to have the yellow, we have to push here 2 by 1.5. So if this would be, let's say, 100 pixels per box, so it's 200 pixels to get here to the right side, and then we have to go up. That would be about, if this would be 20 pixels, so this is about 30 pixels. So let's try to get this one here. All right. So what we're doing here is, and this is the real struggle that many people have. First one, draw a line, and secondly, draw the line at the exact position. All right, this is the one many might struggle, but here's your answer. So let's first draw the line, and then afterwards we're going to play around with it. To draw a line, you need to do one thing first. You need to understand that we have to give it a color first before we can even do anything. But of course, what we also want to do is make sure that we save our CTX value. So first step, save. And the reason we save this is basically that we save all the data points here. And we ignore everything else for now, and then we can start drawing. So here we draw, first of all, to draw the line, give the line a color before you draw it. Yes? So we're going to say here the following. We're going to say CTX, which again, CTX here, which is always here. Stroke style. Stroke style is basically the color. And the reason why we call it a stroke is because we are thinking about a canvas. What is a canvas? A canvas is a painting. Yes, and so basically a painting, if you use your brush to make a line on the canvas, on the white cloth of that square or rectangular shape, basically where what we call painting, that is what we call a stroke. So here, one stroke. So we give it a color. We give this color a stroke. Well, this stroke a color, and a stroke is basically the same as a line, but because this is in painting terms, they call it a stroke. All right. So what we're going to do now is the following. So we're going to give this a color. Let's give it a very straightforward color. Let's say here, for now, I'm going to give this a red color, or maybe even what's nice, a blue color. That's fine as well. So once we have that, we give it a color. Now what we need to do is we need to define the stroke item. To do this, we're going to use some coordinates, and these coordinates will be related to the x, y coordinates. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in ctx dot stroke rect, and rect stands for rectangular. Rectangular means a square, or basically a box. Meaning, if you draw a rectangle, you have 4 strokes. Remember that, 4 strokes. All right, that means 4 lines. So that's how you create a box. That's how you create a square, etc., etc. All right. So that means we have 4 data points here. So these data points are x0. y0, x1, and y1. All right. So let me define all of these before we continue on. What is x0? Well, x0 is the starting point of the line in horizontal level. Alright, so what is y0? Well, you guess it. Starting point of the line. Oh no, well, not really the start, not even the ending point, but basically length of the line. Oh, sorry, no, sorry, this is the starting point. I'm getting confused with y1. Starting point of the line in vertical position. So basically top bottom. T and B. This one is left and right. Alright. Then we have here x1 is the length of the line in horizontal level, but basically in pixels. Remember, this is all in pixels. We're talking about pixels here. Why are we talking about pixels? Because we're working with a canvas and we're working with basically the structure of the canvas, which is 2D and pixel focus. Alright. So next we have here the y1, which would be the length of the line in vertical level in pixels with an S. That should be, because it's a plural, pixels. Alright. So what does it mean? So let's say here. Alright, we have this here. We have to figure out our pixel amount, but we want to know here the position. So I'm going to just remove this. We want to know this position here, the blue. However, our canvas here is bigger than where it starts, right? So if you look, oh, I don't want this, sorry. If you look at this, let's click on this. You can see here, it starts here above. But if we say our chart area is here, but the canvas starts counting from here in this corner. So let's say if you want to move here to this point, we have to move probably at least 100, but including this white space here, maybe this is 20 or 30 pixels, let's say 20. So we have to move here 120. And then you can see here also, if you want to go down here, this might be 10 pixels, but you have this here, and this is maybe also 30 pixels. So we have to move here about 40 pixels to get this. So let's try and explore this. So we say here at the starting point, we have to move 120 about, approx. Yeah, we're going to try that. And then next, we're going to move down. The Y is here, which is, well, this is about 30 and this is 10, so it's 40 pixels here. And then let's make this a line here. We want to have the line. So how long do we want to make the line? If we want to make the line in a horizontal level, we should have here a very long line, but let's give this 100 or 200 pixels. And this here, we just put on 0. We only want to stay on the same level of the line. So if I save this now and refresh, you can see here what is happening. We're getting very close to it, but we're not really there exactly. However, this is basically how it works. However, this right now is hard-coded with text, but we need this step number 2. Draw the line at the exact position. To do this, we have all of the magic here above. So let's work on this. That's what I'm going to do on console log here. We'll make a console.log, and in here, we're going to grab. So this is why we have the top and the right and the bottom and etc. etc. So what do we really want to do here? Well, first of all, what we want to do here is, if we want to know here the length, or basically where we want to start, this is the top and the right. That's all right, that's all fine, but we need to have more specifically the x value here, x and y, because we need to know where to start here. Now probably we want to start here on this, but we don't want to start at this point, the left. We want to start from here all the way to there, right? That means that we need on the x value is basically 0. We don't need to move to the left. That's the starting point, it's just at the very beginning. So we just say here 0 for now. That's the starting point. How much do we have to go down here? Well, our down will be basically dependent on this here. We need to know what is the value of this item here, the data point. So to get that, we have here the x scale. This is why we have the scales here. So when we say here now it's the y, and the y is because we have this specified as a constant here. And then we say the following. Say get pixel for value, and then we have to put in here a number. The number that we put in here would be depending on the index. So right now we want the second index here, or sorry, the second element, which is the first index. This is the 0 index. That's index 0, this is index 1. So this is the second element, which is index 1. So let's put in here index 1. And if we save now, we will get our magic number. Let's go here in console log. And according to this, it's 300 pixels. Alright, that is index number 1. So let's double check here if this is correct. Copy this and put it in here. Save, refresh. Oh, we have to double check what's going on here. What did I say? Y pixel value 1. Alright, so let's double check here. Why are we going to from the 1? Oh, of course it gets here. So what we need here is the X value, but we need to have also the positioning of it, which is this one here. So let's explore this one quickly. Alright, I did some digging here, and I realized that this here apparently is incorrect, which makes sense here, because I was realizing that the number would be far too high. However, what is happening is basically it's grabbing these numbers here. So these are the arrays. If I do number 2 here, we'll jump up to the third index, which is number 2, or index, this one here, number 2. There will be the index 0, 1, and 2. This is the third element, so it jumps here. Alright, how to solve this? Apparently this here, the position here, is going specifically on the scales, and which makes sense, of course. Getting it on the scale, so the Y is related to the scales itself. Alright, how can we solve this? Took me some time to figure out, but eventually I figured it out, and we have to do something else. Alright, so what we're going to do here is the following. We're going to do another one. Console log. Let's show you this version here. So we say chart.get data set meta, and here we get the first data set. There's only one data set right now in here, so that's 0. Alright, so once we have this, then we say dot data where we want to get. So if we want to get this item here, the data is number 1, which makes sense. So number 1, and then dot y, meaning we're getting the from here the number 1, and then we get the y coordinates. So if I save this now, you will see here now we get, although it loads a lot, it starts to go here down to 46, which would probably be more realistic, because we were here close to 40. So this would basically grab also, if I'm not mistaken, the X value matching here. So if I save this here again, refresh, this would get 150. Would that be correct? Well, this might be. Well, let's double check here. I'm going to grab this, remove this here, just put it in there. For now, refresh. You can see here we have that. Alright. And then what we have another one here, we can just check if it will start exactly at the X point here. And there you are. Alright, so that is exactly correct. So this is a useful item as well. However, in our case, this one is not needed now. So pay attention to this. Sorry about that. I was not expecting it. I thought it was all similar to this Y and X. However, not exactly the same. However, it's a good one that I made a video to figure out this part. Alright, so what are we going to do here? So right now, let's look at our code here. I'm going to put this back, and I had it on 0. Am I correct here? If I save this, what happens if you're on 0? Look, you can see here we're moving all at the very beginning here. I don't want this. I want to be here. Where is that? It's this value here, the left one, where we start here instead of here, because now 0 would be the very beginning of the canvas. But we want to do here. Alright, so we say here, we're going to change this one to the left. Refresh. Now we have this. Alright, so how do we go here to the very end? So basically, we're not going to work with the y1 value. There's no movement going down, only left and right, as you can see, which means that we need to go on the x. So you might say, oh, alright, to do this, all we want to do here is just put in here the right side. We just say here right, and we're done. But no, this is not the case. As you can see, we're going to the right, and bam, it overlaps here. We don't want this. How do we solve this? Look at this one here, the width. The width, because we have to calculate the length of it. So we're going to copy this, put it in here. This is the exact length. Refresh, and now we grab the exact length here. There you are. So that starts to look quite nice. So what we can do here, and I put it on 0 here. You might say, well, why is this on 0? Well, because their line starts on 0 and you don't want to move it. If you put it on 1, it will move 1 pixel, but remember it's a stroke, a stroke brush, right? Rectangular stroke, so it means there's 4 lines, meaning that if you move it, it starts at 0 and then move 1 pixel to the left or to the right. So as you can see here, or down, as you can see here now, it doesn't move exactly to the center. So that it can be an issue. They say, well, I want to have it in the center. You're absolutely right. You might say, okay, well, if I do this 2 here, will it become in the center? Well, not really. You can see here now it's a line. Remember, it's a stroke line. This is not a filler. So I'm going to show you also the filler option as well here. So then we have to change this. So for now, I will just put this on 0, and later on I will show you exactly how and what. Alright, we've got this now. I want to go back here to the yellow one. Let's go here. How do we do this? Well, basically we got this one. Number 2. Bam, there you are. It jumps down instantly. Beautifully. Alright, so this is basically how we can play around with it. But now we say, wait a minute, I don't want this. And the reason why I don't want this is because I want to put it here in the options. Alright, let's do that. Before I even continue on with the options, I want to do the following. I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to say here, because this is very important, you have to do this as well. Let's remove all of this here now, all of this excess data. And same here. We have the save, CTX save, alright? Then we have here another one, CTX restore. And the restore would mean to restore the data back to the original, which will be whatever is coming in afterwards. Because this was just temporary only for this specific arbitrary line, the horizontal arbitrary line. So if I save this now, you see nothing happens here, but now if you start to edit, it will just start to work on the chart itself, not anymore on the specific line. Alright? Very important. So now what I want to do here is I want to create here what we call a shorthand. And this shorthand will be here in the options. In the options we say here comma, we say here plugins, and in here we're going to give it a nice shorthand. And the shorthand will be the horizontal arbitrary line. In here, we want to, for example, here, this color here. I don't like the name of the color here. So what we can say here, maybe the horizontal arbitrary line color. So we say equal options dot color. And this is quite long, so maybe we can just say here line color, because it's already given that it's in here. So I guess that would be more than sufficient. And you can see here, alright, so option line color. So it indicates now that the option color of the color will be in here with a shorthand. And so here what we can use is like in everything with chartjs. You can say here now line color, and then here we put in green. Make sure that this is a string. And once we do this, now it will understand the line color will be specified here. So if I save this now and refresh, now it becomes green. Alright, beautifully. If you do this, and we say here gold, save that. Now it becomes a gold yellow color, which is quite hard to see. Let's make this black. Save that, refresh. Alright, so we've got this. So now what I want to do is I want to play a little bit more, because I want to adjust this item here as well. Specifically this, only this value here for now. So what I'm going to do is here, comma, and then I'll say here the Y position. And the Y position would be a number. Let's say number 2, we can do number 3 for now. We save this, and then here we're going to rename this to options dot Y position capital P. And then we save this. So once we save this, refresh, as you can see here, now it moves to the the green one, which is number 3, which is correct because that's the 4th element. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so that works nicely. So we go back to 2, it should go back here to yellow. There you are. Final thing I want to do, I want to give this here some color to make it more aesthetic pleasing, and then after I'm going to show you how we can play around with this if you do not like this line to be that narrow or the width is just far too thin. Alright, so what I'm going to do is here, just let's do some design matters here. What I'm going to do here is basically the following. I'm going to indicate here the point radius. Oh, that's not what I want. Radius, and then we say here 5 pixels to make it a bit more bigger. Then we're going to give the point border width to make the border slightly bigger as well. That's 2 pixels. If I save this now and refresh, you can see here now the border of the radius is 2 pixels and inside is 5 pixels. Alright, so that looks nice. And then finally what I want to do is I want to give it a color. So I said point border color. So we pinpoint specifically the border and I say white. Save that. Now we have it nicely done. That looks far more better. Alright, so that is one of them. The next one I want to do is let's adjust this here. So I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to work with the colors here. Basically, the colors would be based on the Y width, this one here, the Y1 width, alright, or the Y1. So in here, if you put in 2, you'll see here, it gets this here. So it goes slightly down because it starts at the center, then goes down, of course. So what we need to do is basically calculate it. We need to make a formula for this. But what I want to do first is let's make this 5, so you can see it very clearly. Then you can see here, it starts in the center, but then it goes down. That's of course what you don't want. Well, let's make this 10 for now. Save that. Refresh. There we are. Alright. How do we give this then a full color? Well, we don't work with stroke anymore. We will work with fill. And fill is basically filling the entire square is a single color. And then here, fill rectangular will indicate the size of it. This is the color. So if I save this now, refresh, now it becomes solid black, completely including the background. Alright. Now we need to push it up. The pushing up requires a formula based on whatever is in the Y position, because the Y position defines this, and then we need to go up in our case, or down. Let's check. So what I will do is here, make it constant. And let's say we will always say here, I will say Y thickness equals, I'm going to give it a fixed value. I'll say this is, we did here 10, and, well, if I do here, let's say this will be 15. Alright. So we have the Y thickness of 15. So I'm going to put it in here as well. So if I save this, alright, we are now on 15. Now I want to push it up. So how do we push it up? If this is 15, the center is basically here. So we need to go up 7.5 points based on this. So divide by 2 here. So what we're going to do here is basically this. Let's see here. That's on this one here. Let's say minus 7.9. Save that. There you are. Now we are in the center. Alright. So now, soft code this. We're going to grab this one here. Say the thickness. Divide by 2. And then we have this here. If I save this now, refresh. Alright. So there we are. And now if we make this 20. There you are. And if we make this 5 pixels. And there you are. And this is basically how you can create this. And this should be maybe gray, or for something lighter, just to make it a bit more softer in color. Alright, so this looks aesthetically very pleasing, and it's slightly more advanced. And here, really now, this is very important. This is the way here, what you just learned here, and this is given, for me, even it was a very tough cookie to crack, I guess. This was this. The chart.getDataset meta 0, which is related to the first data set here. If you have another data set, you can put this in number 1. And then data options Y position dot Y, pinpointing specifically the Y coordinates of your data point. So what I did before with this, what I thought was the solution, the console log. Then I said Y dot, and then what was this? Let me double check here. The get pixel for value, and then we get the number. This is not correct because this will get only the value at the very y-axis. Specifically, apparently here, this is number 1, 2, etc. All these points within here, which you even not able to see. Of course, number 1 here, 2, etc., etc. Very important. This mistake will never happen to me again, and make sure you don't make this mistake as well. All right. So this is it so far. If it was a quite tricky one, also because of the error, my apologies. If you have a question, put them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in chartjs, check out in the description box the link directing to my chartjs course where you can learn everything about chartjs. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.